Okay, so for this one, I'm going to break down a couple pieces from this little clip right here. The vocal is not mine, it is sampled from Gabby Start's song, The Fractal Song or Fractal Song. So starting things out with the chord pluck, this one's made up of two different layers. I basically have like a saw pluck right here where I have two envelopes, one on the volume that's got a full second of decay, 20 milliseconds of attack. And then envelope 2 is a little shorter, so a shorter attack, 0.5 milliseconds, and then the decay is about half the amount of time. And that's routed into modulating this low 12 filter right here. Then for the oscillators, I have a saw wave that's pitched down an octave, and then a PWM C64 that's at the original octave, with both of those layers going through the filter. Then for effects, I have a little bit of chorus and a high 24 filter with pretty low cutoff, which just sets the band, all the way down here where the sub or the low bass is at. With envelope 2 modulating the resonance, which just kind of bumps the sub up every time the note plays. So before the post effects, it sounds like this. Then I send it through an EQ boosting the lows, some sine wave distortion, and some compression. Then the top note for this one is just envelope 1 that's modulating a low pass filter. I'm using the DS saw and triangle wavetable. It's going into a tiny bit of reverb. Followed by this really sharp EQ, some pretty heavy compression, phase distortion, or you can just use regular distortion if you don't have phase distortion. Then one thing that's important for this type of chord sound is just know that the sub is playing different notes from what the high synth is playing. So as you can see here, we kind of have a little bit of progression that happens with the high note that's not really followed by the sub. They're playing different notes, and that just kind of gets like a little bit richer of a little chord sound there. So together they sound like this. Then I'm sending them both into a bus where I have an OTT, so really boosting and kind of mushing the frequencies together, followed by a limiter, which is just kind of glue compression or fruity limiter doing glue compression. Then I have this like ambient reverb pump layer that I made by using a melodic sample that's in the key of my plucks right here, with like an LFO kind of pumping it. That I didn't feel like worked really well with my pluck because the rhythms are so different. So what I did to fix that and kind of like make them into one sound was I went into the effects on my ambient pump here, sent it through an OTT, then a snap heap where I've taken the MIDI from my little plucks right here, sent them into a MIDI out, set the port to be 36, and then went into a snap heap, set the input MIDI port to be 36, which lets me have an envelope where every time the synth pluck hits, it triggers this envelope that I can then set to a low pass filter. So I'm basically just turning my little pad sound into a pluck of its own, where I can then like add more compression, EQ it, and then compress it again. Which then frees me up more space in the mix for these like ambient lead and like texture layers. So let's say you don't have Snap Heap and you want to still do this trick. You can do it using Serum Effects, which comes with Serum. Just go in here. Your envelopes will then, or the LFOs will, if they're set to envelope mode, trigger if you do the same thing. So input port 36, and we're just going to do an LFO pluck or a envelope pluck right here on an MG Low 6 filter that's also being triggered by that same thing. Except this time on the lead layer right here. So I'm going to turn my pluck off so you can hear that a little better. And as you can see, I'm just messing with the mix a little bit. You don't always have to keep the mix at 100%. In this case, I like this particular sound without that on it, so I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of that. And we'll do the same thing using Patcher this time on a third one, and I'm saving Patcher for last because it takes the most work. But what you're gonna want to do here is you're gonna open up a Patcher. You're gonna add a Fruity Parametric EQ if you're gonna do a synth pluck. Remember, you can also do this trick with any other triggerable like LFO effect or envelope effect. But in this case, what you want to do is go in here for the outputs, pick the event, and pick the MIDI port number that you have set for that MIDI out, right? Then it's going to be sending a MIDI output to anything that you want to have a MIDI output here. So you could like set up an entirely different instrument here if you wanted to. And it's just triggering the same notes as whatever you have in that particular MIDI out, where I think I'm using in this one just one of the plucks because they're always playing at the same time, but you could also go in here and do both of them too, you know, and that's my MIDI out channel there, so it's playing both the notes. But what you're going to want to set up is the MIDI output port 36, then a Fruity envelope controller where you have this envelope, which is envelope 1, go into your output here, and we're going to use controller articulator 1. That's the one that I have this pluck set up on. Then we're going to go into a whatever effect you want this to happen on, but I'm just doing a pluck again for the simplicity's sake of it. And I have to activate this particular parameter right here, which is the frequency of this low pass filter that I've set up here. And then we can just go in here and, you know, I think I might be able to, no, you can't set it as detachable, so you can't really see what it's doing while you're setting it, but you can listen to it. So then you just go in here. And you also have an envelope controller which controls the direction of your envelope or the bass. So as you'll kind of see here, when I change the bass, it changes where it resets to. Right, so that's the bass being there. Then this would be the bass being like towards the bottom. Right, so now my bass is down here. So that's how you do that 3 different ways. And so that's going to do it for this one, y'all. If you want to support this channel, you can do that by going to Patreon, Slime Cinema, link in the description. I put out 100 samples a month plus one other goodie every month. Or you can go to Gumroad and buy sample packs or Patcher preset packs. Or you can listen to Rip Dance Club on SoundCloud or Slime Cinema on SoundCloud. Or hit me up for lessons via Instagram or whatever social media you can find me on. Thank you for watching. I will see y'all in the next one.